General MacArthur, and Douglas MacArthur, redirect here. For the Canadian politician, see Douglas Francis MacArthur. For the diplomat, see Douglas MacArthur II. For other uses, see General MacArthur. Douglas MacArthur was an American five-star general and field marshal of the Philippine Army. He was Chief of Staff of the United States Army during the 1930s and played a prominent role in the Pacific Theater during World War II. He received the Medal of Honor for his service in the Philippines campaign, which made him and his father Arthur MacArthur, Jr., the first father and son to be awarded the medal. He was one of only 5 men ever to rise to the rank of General of the Army in the U.S. Army, and the only man ever to become a Field Marshal in the Philippine Army. Raised in a military family in the American Old West, MacArthur was valedictorian at the West Texas Military Academy, and first captain at the United States Military Academy at West Point, where he graduated top of the class of 1903. During the 1914 United States occupation of Veracruz, he conducted a reconnaissance mission, for which he was nominated for the Medal of Honor. In 1917, he was promoted from major to colonel and became Chief of Staff of the 42nd Division. In the fighting on the Western Front during World War I, he rose to the rank of Brigadier General, was again nominated for a Medal of Honor, and was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross twice and the Silver Star 7 times. From 1919 to 1922, MacArthur served as Superintendent of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, where he attempted a series of reforms. His next assignment was in the Philippines, where in 1924 he was instrumental in quelling the Philippine Scout Mutiny. In 1925, he became the Army's youngest Major General. He served on the court-martial of Brigadier General Billy Mitchell and was president of the American Olympic Committee during the 1928 Summer Olympics in Amsterdam. In 1930, he became Chief of Staff of the United States Army. As such, he was involved in the expulsion of the Bonus Army protesters from Washington, D.C. in 1932, and the establishment and organization of the Civilian Conservation Corps. He retired from the U.S. Army in 1937 to become military advisor to the Commonwealth Government of the Philippines. MacArthur was recalled to active duty in 1941 as commander of United States Army forces in the Far East. A series of disasters followed, starting with the destruction of his air forces on 8 December 1941, and the invasion of the Philippines by the Japanese. MacArthur's forces were soon compelled to withdraw to Bataan, where they held out until May 1942. In March 1942, MacArthur, his family and his staff left nearby Corregidor Island in PT boats and escaped to Australia, where MacArthur became Supreme Commander, Southwest Pacific Area. For his defense of the Philippines, MacArthur was awarded the Medal of Honor. After more than 2 years of fighting in the Pacific, he fulfilled a promise to return to the Philippines. He officially accepted Japan's surrender on the 2nd of September 1945, aboard the US Missouri anchored in Tokyo Bay, and oversaw the occupation of Japan from 1945 to 1951. As the effective ruler of Japan, he oversaw sweeping economic, political and social changes. He led the United Nations Command in the Korean War until he was removed from command by President Harry S. Truman on the 11th of April 1951. He later became chairman of the board of Remington Rand. Early life and education. A military brat, Douglas MacArthur was born the 26th of January 1880, at the Arsenal Barracks in Little Rock, Arkansas, to Arthur MacArthur, Jr., a U.S. Army captain, and his wife, Mary Pinckney Hardy MacArthur. Arthur, Jr., was the son of jurist and politician Arthur MacArthur, Sr. Arthur would later receive the Medal of Honor for his actions with the Union Army in the Battle of Missionary Ridge during the American Civil War, and be promoted to the rank of Lieutenant General. Pinckney came from a prominent Norfolk, Virginia, family. Two of her brothers had fought for the South in the Civil War, and refused to attend her wedding. The family lived on a succession of army posts in the American Old West. Conditions were primitive, and Malcolm died of measles in 1883. In his memoir, Reminiscences, MacArthur wrote, "I learned to ride and shoot even before I could read or write. Indeed, almost before I could walk and talk." This time on the frontier ended in July 1889 when the family moved to Washington, D.C., where Douglas attended the Force Public School. His father was posted to San Antonio, Texas, in September 1893. While there, MacArthur attended the West Texas Military Academy, where he was awarded the gold medal for scholarship and deportment. He also participated on the school tennis team, and played quarterback on the school football team and shortstop on its baseball team. He was named valedictorian, with a final year average of 97.33 out of 100. MacArthur's father and grandfather unsuccessfully sought to secure Douglas a presidential appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. First from President Grover Cleveland and then from President William McKinley. After these two rejections, he passed an examination for an appointment from Congressman Theobald Oetjen, scoring 93.3 on the test. He later wrote, "It was a lesson I never forgot. Preparedness is the key to success and victory." MacArthur entered West Point on the 13th of June 1899, and his mother also moved there to a suite at Craney's Hotel, overlooking the grounds of the academy. Hazing was widespread at West Point at this time, and MacArthur and his classmate Ulysses S. Grant III were singled out for special attention by Southern cadets as sons of generals with mothers living at Craney's. When Cadet Oscar Booz left West Point after being hazed and subsequently died of tuberculosis, there was a congressional inquiry. MacArthur was called to appear before a special congressional committee in 1901, where he testified against cadets implicated in hazing, but downplayed his own hazing even though the other cadets gave the full story to the committee. Congress subsequently outlawed acts of a harassing, tyrannical, abusive, shameful, insulting or humiliating nature, although hazing continued. MacArthur was a corporal in Company B in his second year, a first sergeant in Company A in his third year and first captain in his final year. He played left field for the baseball team, and academically earned 2,424.12 merits out of a possible 2,470.00 or 98.14. The third highest score ever recorded, graduating first in his 93-man class on the 11th of June 1903. At the time, it was customary for the top-ranking cadets to be commissioned into the United States Army Corps of Engineers. So MacArthur was commissioned as a second lieutenant in that corps. Junior officer. MacArthur spent his graduation furlough with his parents at Fort Mason, California, where his father, now a major general, was serving as commander of the Department of the Pacific. Afterward, he joined the 3rd Engineer Battalion, which departed for the Philippines in October 1903. MacArthur was sent to Iloilo, where he supervised the construction of a wharf at Camp Jusman. He went on to conduct surveys at Tacloban City, Calbayog City and Cebu City. In November 1903, while working on Guimaras, he was ambushed by a pair of Filipino brigands or guerrillas. He shot and killed both with his pistol. He was promoted to first lieutenant in Manila in April 1904. In October 1904, his tour of duty was cut short when he contracted malaria in Dobeach during a survey on Bataan. He returned to San Francisco, where he was assigned to the California Debris Commission. In July 1905, he became chief engineer of the Division of the Pacific. In October 1905, MacArthur received orders to proceed to Tokyo for appointment as aide-de-camp to his father. They inspected Japanese military bases at Nagasaki, Kobe and Kyoto, then headed to India via Shanghai, Hong Kong, Java and Singapore. reaching Calcutta in January 1906. In India, they visited Madras, Tuticorin, Quetta, Karachi, the northwest frontier and the Khyber Pass. They then sailed to China via Bangkok and Saigon, and toured Canton, Tsingtao, Peking, Shenzhen, Hankou and Shanghai before returning to Japan in June. The next month they returned to the United States, where Arthur MacArthur resumed his duties at Fort Mason, still with Douglas as his aide. In September, Douglas received orders to report to the 2nd Engineer Battalion at the Washington Barracks and enroll in the engineer school. While there he also served as an aide to assist at White House functions, at the request of President Theodore Roosevelt. In August 1907, MacArthur was sent to the Engineer District Office in Milwaukee, where his parents were now living. In April 1908, he was posted to Fort Leavenworth, where he was given his first command, Company K, 3rd Engineer Battalion. He became battalion adjutant in 1909 and then engineer officer at Fort Leavenworth in 1910. MacArthur was promoted to captain in February 1911 and was appointed as head of the Military Engineering Department and the Field Engineer School. He participated in exercises at San Antonio, Texas, with the Maneuver Division in 1911 and served in Panama on detached duty in January and February 1912. The sudden death of their father on 5 September 1912 brought Douglas and his brother Arthur back to Milwaukee to care for their mother, whose health had deteriorated. MacArthur requested a transfer to Washington, D.C., so his mother could be near Johns Hopkins Hospital. Army Chief of Staff Major General Leonard Wood took up the matter with Secretary of War Henry L. Stimson, who arranged for MacArthur to be posted to the office of the Chief of Staff in 1912. Veracruz Expedition. On 21 April 1914, President Woodrow Wilson ordered the occupation of Veracruz. MacArthur joined the headquarters staff that was sent to the area, arriving on 1 May 1914. He realized that the logistic support of an advance from Veracruz would require the use of the railroad. Finding plenty of railroad cars in Veracruz but no locomotives, MacArthur set out to verify a report that there were a number of locomotives in Alvarado, Veracruz. For $150 in gold, he acquired a handcar and the services of 3 Mexicans, whom he disarmed. MacArthur and his party located 5 engines in Alvarado, 2 of which were only switches, but the other 3 locomotives were exactly what was required. On the way back to Veracruz, his party was set upon by 5 armed men. The party made a run for it and outdistanced all but 2 of the armed men, whom MacArthur shot. Soon after, they were attacked by a group of about 15 horsemen. MacArthur took 3 bullet holes in his clothes but was unharmed. One of his companions was lightly wounded before the horsemen finally decided to retire after MacArthur shot 4 of them. Further on, the party was attacked a 3rd time by 3 mounted men. MacArthur received another bullet hole in his shirt, but his men, using their handcar, managed to outrun all but one of their attackers. MacArthur shot both that man and his horse, and the party had to remove the horse's carcass from the track before proceeding. A fellow officer wrote to Wood recommending that MacArthur's name be put forward for the Medal of Honor. Wood did so, and Chief of Staff Hugh L. Scott convened a board to consider the award. The board questioned the advisability of this enterprise having been undertaken without the knowledge of the commanding general on the ground. This was Brigadier General Frederick Funston, a Medal of Honor recipient himself, who considered awarding the medal to MacArthur entirely appropriate and justifiable. However, the board feared that, to bestow the award recommended, might encourage any other staff officer, under similar conditions, to ignore the local commander, possibly interfering with the latter's plans. Consequently, MacArthur received no award at all. World War I. Rainbow Division. MacArthur returned to the War Department, where he was promoted to major on the 11th of December 1915. In June 1916, he was assigned as head of the Bureau of Information at the Office of the Secretary of War, Newton D. Baker. MacArthur has since been regarded as the Army's first press officer. Following the declaration of war on Germany on 6 April 1917, Baker and MacArthur secured an agreement from President Wilson for the use of the National Guard on the Western Front. MacArthur suggested sending 1st A Division organized from units of different states, so as to avoid the appearance of favoritism toward any particular state. Baker approved the creation of this formation, which became the 42nd Division, and appointed Major General William A. Mann, the head of the National Guard Bureau, as its commander. MacArthur was its chief of staff, with the rank of colonel. At MacArthur's request, this commission was in the infantry rather than the engineers. The 42nd Division was assembled in August and September 1917 at Camp Mills, New York, where its training emphasized open-field combat rather than trench warfare. It sailed in a convoy from Hoboken, New Jersey, for France on 18 October 1917. On 19 December, Mann was replaced as division commander by Major General Charles T. Menaher. Champaign-Marne offensive. The 42nd Division entered the line in the quiet Lunéville sector in February 1918. On 26 February, MacArthur and Captain Thomas T. Handy accompanied a French trench raid in which MacArthur assisted in the capture of a number of German prisoners. The commander of the French 7th Corps, Major General Georges de Bazilaire, decorated MacArthur with the Croix de Guerre. Menaher recommended MacArthur for a Silver Star, which he later received. The Silver Star Medal was not instituted until 8 August 1932, but small silver citation stars were authorized to be worn on the campaign ribbons of those cited in orders for gallantry, similar to the British mention in dispatches. When the Silver Star Medal was instituted, it was retroactively awarded to those who had been awarded silver citation stars. On 9 March, the 42nd Division launched 3 raids of its own on German trenches in the salient du Fies. MacArthur accompanied a company of the 168th Infantry. This time, his leadership was rewarded with the Distinguished Service Cross. A few days later, MacArthur, who was strict about his men carrying their gas masks but often neglected to bring his own, was gassed. He recovered in time to show Secretary Baker around the area on 19 March. MacArthur was promoted to Brigadier General on 26 June. In late June, the 42nd Division was shifted to Châlons-en-Champagne to oppose the impending German Champaign-Marne offensive. General d'Armée Qt Henry Gouraud of the French Fourth Army elected to meet the attack with a defense in depth, holding the front-line area as thinly as possible and meeting the German attack on his second line of defense. His plan succeeded, and MacArthur was awarded a second Silver Star. The 42nd Division participated in the subsequent Allied counter-offensive, and MacArthur was awarded a third Silver Star on 29 July. 2 days later, Menaher relieved Brigadier General Robert A. Brown of the 84th Infantry Brigade of his command, and replaced him with MacArthur. Hearing reports that the enemy had withdrawn, MacArthur went forward on 2 August to see for himself. He later wrote, "It was 3:30 that morning when I started from our right at Sergy, taking runners from each outpost liaison group to the next, moving by way of what had been no man's land. I will never forget that trip. The dead were so thick in spots we tumbled over them. There must have been at least 2,000 of those sprawled bodies. I identified the insignia of 6 of the best German divisions. The stench was suffocating. Not a tree was standing. The moans and cries of wounded men sounded everywhere. Sniper bullets sung like the buzzing of a hive of angry bees. An occasional shell burst always drew an angry oath from my guide. "I counted almost 100 disabled guns, various size and several times that number of abandoned machine guns." He was also awarded a second Croix de Guerre and made a commander of the Legion d'Honneur. Battle of Saint-Mihiel and Meuse-Argonne offensive. The 42nd Division earned a few weeks' rest, returning to the line for the Battle of Saint-Mihiel on 12 September 1918. The Allied advance proceeded rapidly and MacArthur was awarded a 5th Silver Star for his leadership of the 84th Infantry Brigade. He received a 6th Silver Star for his participation in a raid on the night of 25–26 September. The 42nd Division was relieved on the night of 30 September and moved to the Argonne sector, where it relieved the 1st Division on the night of 11 October. On a reconnaissance the next day, MacArthur was gassed again, earning a second wound chevron. The 42nd Division's participation in the Meuse-Argonne offensive began on 14 October when it attacked with both brigades. That evening, a conference was called to discuss the attack, during which Charles Pelot-Summerall, commander of the 1st Infantry Division and 5th Corps, telephoned and demanded that Châtillon be taken by 1800 the next evening. An aerial photograph had been obtained that showed a gap in the German barbed wire to the northeast of Châtillon. Lieutenant Colonel Walter E. Baer, the commander of the 167th Infantry, proposed an attack from that direction, where the defences seemed least imposing, covered by a machine gun barrage. MacArthur adopted this plan. He was wounded, but not severely, while verifying the existence of the gap in the barbed wire. Summerall nominated MacArthur for the Medal of Honor and promotion to Major General, but he received neither. Instead, he was awarded a second Distinguished Service Cross. The 42nd Division returned to the line for the last time on the night of 4–5 November 1918, in the final advance on Sedan. MacArthur later wrote that this operation narrowly missed being one of the great tragedies of American history. In order to disregard unit boundaries led to units crossing into each other's zones. In the resulting chaos, MacArthur was taken prisoner by men of the 1st Division, who mistook him for a German general. His performance in the attack on the Meuse Heights led to his being awarded a 7th Silver Star. On 10 November, a day before the armistice that ended the fighting, MacArthur was appointed commander of the 42nd Division. For his service as Chief of Staff and commander of the 84th Infantry Brigade, he was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal. His period in command was brief, for on the 22nd of November he, like other brigadier generals, was replaced, and returned to the 84th Infantry Brigade. The 42nd Division was chosen to participate in the occupation of the Rhineland, occupying the Arvila district. In April 1919, they entrained for Brest and Saint-Nazaire, where they boarded ships to return to the United States. MacArthur traveled on the ocean liner SS Leviathan, which reached New York on 25 April 1919.